Yeah, basically what I'm trying to do with this project is on our website. Normally we feature a lot of creative projects and people that have like interesting ideas that are sort of bettering the world in some way, whether it be like environmental or social. I mean, like loads of stuff planned, as I'm sure everyone did in 2020, and then the
Yeah,
whole world just went, nah, cancel everything.
pretty
So
much. Flip the
yeah,
script.
yeah, we thought, what can we do from our house? And we thought we'd set up something called Connect and talk to people from like loads of different backgrounds, like jobs, like just everything, and see how it's affected different people. Now you're in the world of like content creation as well through working with Storror,
Yeah.
um, and I've watched some of your videos and I actually saw that you have been. Have you been hit by Corona or like it
Yeah,
has sort
so
of?
I guess like yeah, I don't know if it's actually I can't fully confirm that it was coronavirus, but uh, like due to the circumstances of us actually getting some kind of illness at around the same kind of time, obviously you would maybe link the two together. But my flatmate Louis, I live with basically my girlfriend Stacey and two other people, obviously Chris, who you know, and another guy called Louis. I'm not sure you met. Yeah, he's a musician, and basically he started to contract some of these symptoms, and yeah, at first he kind of yeah, it was I think it was his sense of smell, his taste went. He had like a dry cough. Sorry about the noise. Headache, amongst some other kind of symptoms, right? And then from there, we obviously had to do the self isolation kind of thing with him because he had to stay in for 7 days, and then we had to do 14 because we could be potentially incubating this virus as well. So we kind of took the necessary precautions, not really going out as much, barely, pretty much at all. Little bits of training here and there, but just trying to keep it really low key and stay around the area. And then on literally just before I was able to kind of start potentially going out again and training properly, I started to get some kind of symptoms as well. So obviously, I took the necessary precautions and stayed in for a further week, which I think ended on Saturday. So now I've been going out a little bit more, obviously, just trying to stay within the guidelines. But yeah, it still obviously affects your quality of life and the way you can do things, I guess. But I guess it's how you use it.
What's the dynamic of if you know you're living with someone that you think has it? Like, is it leaving food outside their door or
No,
like?
because I feel like the moment, obviously thinking about it maybe logically, I felt like the moment that Louis had shown some symptoms, it means that inevitably I would potentially get something, or the
Yeah,
likelihood of me getting something is much higher. So I don't think there was anything that I could have done about it at that point in time. I just thought I might as well just act normal and obviously try and stay away from other people.
yeah, fair
Aside,
enough. Yeah, I saw you did that cool little video. I don't know, like you were fighting over toilet paper or something,
yeah,
and then
that's so
you were
yeah,
said you were still trying to do stuff and be active within your house, which I think everyone's trying to do at the minute.
for
Um,
sure.
I mean, how much stuff did you have with Storror, or maybe personally, that you've now had to cancel?
Yeah, so definitely in terms of trips and things and certain jobs and yeah, things that we had in the pipeline, definitely that changed. Obviously the dynamic with that. So we obviously had to adapt and you know just try and find our way around it. But yeah, it's unfortunate some of these things got cancelled. But given the circumstances and like the gravity of what's happened, I think having to take that on the chin and just adapt is what you have to do really.
Yeah, everyone I've spoken to has taken a bit of strength and has it almost relaxed them a bit. The fact that this has happened to literally everyone. Like, there's not
Mm,
one person that has
exactly.
been
Yeah.
affected. So obviously there's times like when you're cooped up inside and you've been on your laptop all day, for example, it can be frustrating when you don't have the release of then going out with your mates, or especially
Yeah,
if,
for
like
sure.
yourself, you're super active and that's a big part of your life. Like, that's frustrating. But then I think the perspective always comes around again, and people are like, when you look at the news and you're like seeing the death toll go up, everyone's sort of like, okay,
Yeah,
like we're all
for sure.
together.
I feel like
Uh,
it's all collaboration between uh like seeing feeling the gravity of the situation and following the guidelines, but also not making yourself like a victim in the situation. I feel like if your state of mind and the way you perceive it is then going to be your like either release or your thing that's holding you back, I guess. Because I feel like a lot of people might not go down the positive route of just like trying to be active even within the house, exercising, maybe reading something they've not had the opportunity to read, or obviously now you're not doing your normal 9 to 5 job or your normal job. It kind of frees up a lot of time for you potentially to work on the things that you haven't had the time to do, maybe, or the things that you've never really had the time, or you thought you didn't have the time to focus on.
Have you always been the type of person that's been like super into, like, we'll call it, like hobbies and like interests? Because I think there's a portion of like the population and their hobby, especially in their adult life, was drinking. You know what I mean? Like the 9 to 5 and then going out, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. What about you? Like, has that always been something that's like part of who you are?
So with regards to I've never really experienced a 9 to 5 kind of situation. I remember I worked in a canteen once, but before then I didn't. And before and after that, I've not really had that, what you'd call like a stereotypical way of working. So I've always kind of prioritized my interests and what I like over kind of conforming to a normal way of life, I guess. I don't know. But wait, what was the continuation of the question again? Sorry.
I was just saying, like, from what you do now, I was just wondering, have you found that transition of finding new things to do or exploring other interests that you have a bit more in isolation? Because the point I was making is a lot of people might not be like yourself and have always had strong interests and passions from a young age, and now they're sitting at home like twiddling their thumbs, like, well, I can't go out and drink.
For sure. Okay, yeah, that, I guess, yeah, for sure. But then again, it all goes back down to perception, and then maybe that boredom is your gateway into then finding out about those things. And like you said, everyone's wired differently, and everyone, I don't know, is going to look at something in a different way. But yeah, I guess I've always had that side of myself and tried to, focus on these interests and these little things. But I have been susceptible and been distracted by obviously the media and stuff. And like when I have been at home in the situation, I've kind of like slipped into like, just scrolling and like, just my short attention span, kind of low focus things. You know what I mean? Just kind of watching and scrolling. But then I was like, no, I can't do that. I need to use this time to get a head start on something or to push myself. Otherwise, I'm just going to become stagnant. Do you know what I mean? If you just become stagnant and you not do anything, then you'll just atrophy in your mind and your body.
Yeah, I think low concentration stuff is definitely like something that frustrates me a lot, because through a lot of the work we do, like I mentioned to you, is with like sort of tackling social issue or environmental stuff. So it can be quite dense sometimes. It can be academic sometimes. And I had I don't know if you know, it's called Jay from the Zach and Jay show. I don't know if you know those guys. But like they're relatively successful YouTubers that are quite popular in it. And I was talking to him about it, and he said like you almost need to have like, real content that you believe in and you think is good and can be good for people, but you need that like sexy element as well. You need like something that like captures people's attention.
For sure, yeah.
And that's something that I've struggled with a lot. And the analogy I made to him was like, say you talk about homelessness or climate change or stuff. It's kind of like on places like YouTube and stuff. It's kind of like being at a party and bringing up those topics with someone, and they might be like, "Man, can I just chill?" You know what I mean? I just want to be entertained.
Yeah, true. You've got to make it appealing to them somehow, or like, capture their interest or their attention in maybe a new way or a different angle, or something that's pleasing towards them. Not pleasing, obviously, because some of these issues aren't exactly pleasing, but like a nice way to highlight it.
It's true, and like I've done quite a few of these conversations now, and people make really good points. But I'm like, okay, that's not going to do that well because maybe you're not that famous, or you're not, and I don't have the clickbait. Like we always try to not be too clickbait wise. When you deal with like more stuff that's like academic, sometimes it sort of goes against all your integrity that you're trying to stand for. By then being like, oh my god, look at what happened here. I mean, you guys have worked away on your platform, and I think you definitely have that element of excitement in your videos. I mean, like just some of the things you do, like I think of your videos in like Korea and stuff like that.
That's so fun.
Yeah, and there's some like
crazy. I guess it's more the thing of like when you strive for the thing that you enjoy and you gravitate most towards, and it feels natural towards you in terms of your enjoyment towards it. Obviously, it's going to be hard times and things where you want to push, but if you have a passion for it, then that's what's going to fuel your growth in it, and not just for monetary success, but also maximal enjoyment. And then I feel like once you immerse yourself in that world, eventually you'll get towards that position where money comes in or whatever. But if that growth's too fast or it's too premature, then you're not going to have like a a healthy, successful life in it. I don't think like if you get catapulted into fame or like into I don't know success, sometimes you don't have the knowledge to be able to equip yourself to succeed. So maybe it is best to have that incubation period where you are growing and taking it all in, and then when you come to the point where you are successful or whatever, number one know what you're doing and you're enjoying it, and number two, it's just fun. I don't know.
No, I agree with you. Like, I always remind myself, like, it's whenever you're doing a project and being creative and releasing stuff, you do always have to like remind yourself of like why you started, particularly when it's not going so well, and what
Yeah,
the alternative is. Like you just mentioned, you haven't done the stereotypical 9 to 5 job,
yeah,
and you got to remind yourself of you chosen not to have that life because that life for some people is like soul destroying. Like I know for myself, when I've done that life, like I've despised it. But
mm,
then the doubts come in when you're, working for yourself and producing stuff. When you've not got enough money, the thoughts come in like, oh, shall I just go back
yeah, for
to
sure.
you remember your bank account was a lot healthier and stuff like that. I mean, thinking of you guys, like I said, I didn't really know Chris too well in school, but I do have some like vague recollection of like seeing videos on Facebook of him doing like parkour related stuff. Uh,
Mm.
when was the point for you guys when it like went from just putting videos on like Facebook and YouTube and stuff like way back to then you were like, oh shit, this could actually be like sort of like career?
Yeah, so I don't know, for me personally, it was I was always doing it for the enjoyment and the fun because I started off when I was around 16, 15, 16, towards the end of 15. And yeah, it was just fully going out with your mates, having fun. And then I'm trying to think when it became like, whoa, this is actually fully something. Maybe like 5 years ago, I don't know. I'm trying to think of like a standout moment or like a highlight point. Just when all the team stuff started to become more serious and more traveling and like making the videos and stuff more professional is what kind of instead of it being like just going out and having fun, it's all still fun, but it was like more of an overarching goal of what we have to create and what we have to make. And I guess it was when we started doing weekly uploads that not pressure, but the schedule that we envisioned for ourselves kind of had to work.
Like I saw is it Thames Mead? It's like in East
Yeah,
London.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I was watching that just before I spoke to you actually.
Kind of breaking up slightly. Oh, I can hear you
Yeah, you good? Yeah, I was watching that just before I spoke to you now, just because
now.
I thought I hadn't looked hadn't for a while, and like yeah, you can see the way the music and like the movement and everything like it's a lot more thought out now. It's not like
Yeah,
oh go and do a cool thing like jump
yeah,
about or do that. It's like very like curated,
yeah,
um,
for sure.
and like I suppose that comes with it. I mean, you're how do you all know each other?
So, like from I feel like I met different people obviously at different stages, and it's almost like slightly separate groups at points. But then obviously those groups kind of merged together. But I met Toby like maybe like 9, maybe 10 years ago. It was in Guildford. I was waiting for another guy, an older guy called Tage at the station, and I remember I saw Toby in some of his videos. And this is a point where like, I don't even think I have had like a phone. I was just using like payphones and stuff. And I had to wait for Take at the station. And sometimes I'd wait for these people, and they'll take ages, but I'd just always wait. I remember I saw Toby waiting as well. And I was like, you're Toby, right? I've seen you in some of these videos. And I think he maybe seen me before as well. And then from then we became friends. And then I think later on in that month, I went back to Guildford and I met Callum and Sasha as well at a jam. And then years later, I met the others. So it was Toby, Callum, and Sasha I met first and trained with for a few years, maybe 3, 4 years. And then met Max, Benj, and Stephen, actually, another guy who used to be in Storror. And then Drew later on in Reigate.
Is it like it sort of seems kind of similar to like skating in a way of
Mm.
like oh there's like spots and like you
Sure.
guys sort of, like come together and have teams and stuff.
Hmm.
Uh, like it's really cool to see like I mean how well like are these the people you hang out with like all the time because there must be like some level of like bond when you do all
Oh,
this
yeah.
sick things
Yeah.
like when I see you guys like pull something off that maybe you've tried quite a few times there's a proper moment, and it must be the same with like the scariest shit. But you're like, oh, we did that.
Definitely, yeah. Because I guess like when there's also that element of trust and like bonding, like you said, obviously with some like minor situations, but also big ones because we've done a lot of traveling, gone to lots of different places. there's been a lot of situations that kind of had to push us, like physically and mentally, like stressful times where we had to like help each other coordinate, or we've been like, I don't know, like high up and we're trying to do this climb or trying to get up a skyscraper, something like that, where you have to really work as a team to get something done. And when you get those times and those elements where someone is stressed or whatever, and they have to kind of cool down, it's like you learn those other people. And also when someone's putting their like potentially their life at risk, or they're trying to move that's really hard, obviously you know them and you know their skill set and you're confident in their ability, but there's still that like placement of trust between you and the other person or other people in the team. So yeah, it does create like a really strong bond and really
Is there
know those individuals.
is there stuff where someone might be like, "No, I've got this," and you're like, "I don't know if they do." No, that
Uh,
sounds savage in a way, but like,
I get if that ever happened like that, I would always say before, but
yeah,
when there's doubts, you know someone, you probably voice them or you say maybe that would happen or maybe it'd be like that. But then there is that dialogue between the two people or maybe more people to try and like come to like a mutual ground. And if that person's really confident in it, and you know their confidence, like oh, okay, like he must be feeling it. Like if he's got that confidence that's come from somewhere, then most likely he's going to be able to do it. But I don't know. I've not really had that many occasions like that really, unless it's someone I don't know that well.
yeah. I mean, do you work with other people a lot, or do you tend to keep it quite like tight? It's just like you, because I suppose you
Uh,
don't. If you're doing stuff that's high risk and high stress, like you say, you don't always, I assume, want to be bringing in
Oh, right,
outside.
yeah. More like a small unit of us that
Yeah,
we usually do it, or we break up into smaller groups or whatever. But it all depends on the situation. If we're making like a video that is like a just like a feel good kind of go to spots and stuff video in like a random country, then a lot of the time we'll be meeting up with the people in the area, like the community, to try and train with them, or I don't know, like hang out with them as well. They can show us locations, different spots. But if it's like a big project like Thamesmead, for example, where we're just trying to make like a highlight piece video, then most of the time we'll do it when we're just a small unit.
fair play. But, like, yeah, it's so cool to see some of the places you've been. Like, I know, like I mentioned that Afghanistan project,
Mm.
and you guys are always keen to go to those places where people sort of go, "What, parkour in
Yeah.
like Iran or like in Korea or something?"
Hmm.
Like, what's like? Do you feel like the most high risk places you've been, aside from like doing the parkour itself? Like, because that's
Oh,
got to
what you
be
mean high risk in terms of like dangerous for you?
yeah, that's gonna be stressful because I'm thinking in terms of like security and stuff. Like
Definitely, yeah.
some
There's
places they don't fuck about. You know what I mean? Like
then yeah, for sure. So I'd say yeah, probably in terms of like being arrested, probably like some Asian countries. So obviously going to Hong Kong, Tokyo, and Seoul, that was high risk in terms of obviously the movement and being that high up, but also in terms of the way that the police viewed parkour and it had quite a lot stricter regulations and rules. So that was kind of hard. And then in India, getting deported, that was annoying. Like
wow,
we were doing a TED talk there, and but we were also filming a India POV at the same time. And then it turned out that like the locals didn't really agree with what we wanted to do, so well, like the government and the police basically rounded us up because they'd seen like clips that went viral in India or whatever. And me and Drew were in a hotel, and then the police came, and then they were like trying to arrest us, and we were like, "What? We haven't done anything wrong." And then this big thing came out, and then the others came, and then we basically got taken into this like jail place, and then it was just all this media and everything. It was so weird. And then basically the next morning they were just like, "You need to go," so we just left.
yeah, I heard of someone that went to study abroad in China and they got in a fight or something and they got
Mhm.
put in, and they had some sort of hearing which they couldn't even understand. This person was English. They couldn't even understand, and then next thing I know, they were in prison for something like 4 months. They were
Wow,
just
crazy.
that, just
That's
like
nuts.
that, and they don't even really know why. But apparently they've come out fluent Mandarin. So
Well,
apparently
I
they were
think
trying
that's
to
one
be positive
positive.
about.
There
Yeah,
you
they
go.
were
Sometimes there's
like,
always there's always a positive, but yeah, it all
yeah.
depends.
I mean, weird, like you say, like getting deported and that, but you must have like a group of people. Like you guys have done stuff in like films and stuff. Like there must be such a weird line. Like, is it hard
Yeah.
to understand sometimes whether you're going to be accepted or people are going to be like,
Well,
nah.
I guess yeah, it's so mixed because I guess it really it's all dependent on where you go and how people then perceive what you do. Because you go to some places, obviously, some people are really friendly and happy and inviting about it. They don't care, or they're just cool with it. But then all depending on the culture and the place, then people react differently. And obviously, when they know what parkour is and they've seen it before, they're much more accepting. But some of these other countries don't really have much of an idea about it, and the response is more like either like annoyed or hostile, or like they don't really want to do it. And then like there's also other dangerous places that you can go that you might get robbed or something like that. But generally, because there's a big group of guys who are together, like 7 of us together, we don't usually get bothered that much. It's just on the odd occasion it's happened, but not much.
You had some issues with YouTube, didn't you, at one point?
What? Yes. Well, I guess it's still an ongoing issue, really. But we got demonetized because I think there was loads of stuff going on with YouTube at the time, and like certain advertisers were pulling out of certain things. Plus, the guidelines are basically just changing. I feel like the world in general has become much more liberal, but also more censored in a way. It's weird.
Like sensitive but liberal.
Yeah, so it's almost like anything that moves away from obviously super liberal points of view sometimes, and it's not deemed as progressive, and then you get labeled as like someone who's all right or something. You know what I mean? It's like I feel like there needs to be less of a distinction of this left and right, and more just like having an idea but not going too far in any direction, because I feel like any direction you go too far down is maybe negative. I don't know.
No, it is hypocritical, because if people are super liberal, they're always saying like, oh, people can wear what they want, they can do this, they can believe in what they want, and then you get even deeper, like any sexuality, any religion and stuff like that. And part of that like spectrum of like beliefs are people that are more conservative, and like they always get like absolutely slaughtered for just expressing their views.
Yeah,
and I come from a point of view. I come from a point of view that like as long as your views don't like infringe on people's like freedoms and like beliefs, like you can kind of do what you want, and that's kind of like a good rule, because that covers you for like anything you do. If you're like discriminating or stuff, then you're breaking that rule.
Yeah, sure. And I guess that kind of leads back into the point of what happened with us, and we then got demonetized for expressing ourselves and showing what we wanted to show, right? And even videos that weren't necessarily high risk or on private property were still put underneath this blanket ban, but because YouTube did say that they were reviewing each video and then handing out like a yellow, because it's like a traffic light system of the video being monetized. Sorry, so green is obviously most, if not all, ads are going to be available, and then amber or like orange is limited to no ads, and then red is like no way it can be monetized. But all of ours are amber, but that just means pretty much no money. It means unsuitable for most advertisers, and we haven't got one, I think, pound from any like after this point.
For you guys, because like because if you have that income and like you plan your life around that income, like that's sad if it just gets cut off.
Yeah, well, it's so lucky, because what we only start seeing the YouTube money at like a pivotal point in the growth of the channel, but also we were just using it to like fund our trips and stuff. But luckily we have a clothing business as well and other sources of income, so we're able to still do what we need to. But yeah, it's just annoying that we didn't really get that support from YouTube, really, even though we put a lot of time and effort into it, and a lot of people obviously enjoy watching our content. But everything just changed, I guess.
I mean, the views speak for themselves in terms of like YouTube got to remember that every single one of these channels is an asset to them, because it was an alternative one where Storror and all the other like people that bring in that many views went on a different platform, then that would have a massive impact. Obviously, that's never going to happen because they are so big and like so established.
It's weird,
Like I've been talking to people a lot in this project about smaller businesses and how they're affected, because they're ultimately going to be the ones that get most screwed over. And like on a side point, this guy said to me like some businesses work off algorithms on like Facebook and like Instagram and YouTube and stuff, and if they get changed, it can just like take out their whole business plan essentially. Which is absolutely savage. Like, I mean, do you know any other people, like friends, that have been like really badly affected from this? Like, if they got their own businesses, their own channels, or things like that?
I'm trying to think. To be fair, not particularly, because I've not really been conversing with many people outside of this immediate circle. Like, because I've been so disconnected from people like visually, I've actually not really been talking to that many people, like on the phone or anything really that much. Like, I've been kind of trying to stay away from my phone as much, because I felt like I was on it quite a lot before, and just thought like I might as well use this opportunity to try and disconnect from it a bit. But people I have spoken to have been getting on with it. Really, I don't know. They've just been kind of. I think there's like universal basic credit or basic income type thing, and they've also got the what is it like? You're getting a certain amount of money if you. I don't know. I don't really know all the details.
No, we worked with someone called Underpin that did like a really nice like they basically support freelancers, and they bought a really nice collection of like advice for people, because I was saying to them like that's really important, because it's just like overwhelming if you're like going online everywhere and like having to like pull information. And I don't know if you've been on like government websites before, but they are not the friendliest things like in the
No,
world, and
user
they're
friendly.
stressful. Like today, so I had a trip cut short. I was supposed to be in Canada for a while, and I've had to come back from that. And I'm trying to be doing like all the travel insurance and stuff today, and all the like claim forms, and that stuff drains your soul, man. Like,
Yeah,
that
it's
is
so
like,
annoying. But they make it harder to do. Like, surely if you want the least amount of resistance from people, like especially for that like government website, you want to make it interactive and simple to use so people can get the point and get done quickly. But it's almost like it's designed to trip you up. So weird.
you could argue like they just don't want to pay up. It's like if you did like you. So you're from like around South London, Southern, like
Yeah.
you know how shit Southern Rail are. Like it's like
Yeah.
facts, and like their claim system of like if they've delayed and stuff is so hard.
So they want to make it difficult. So you might give up or be like, oh, just try again tomorrow, and then you just forget or whatever. Yeah,
They
definitely.
doing. I mean, my mum made a point though. Like things are getting better because of this. For example, a lot of people I've talked to are working from home now, via Skype, Zoom, everything. And I think people are going to realize like they need to make those aspects more convenient, because it is possible. And my mum made the point about pharmacy and like repeat prescriptions. Apparently, they've made that like a lot easier for people right now. So like, I think some small positives can come out of like
Yeah,
this
for sure,
crisis.
100%. There's definitely like always two sides to it for sure, and obviously there is that negative aspect of what's happening to people, but the positives of like yeah, industry freeing up and less, like industry stuff happening and the environment kind of clearing up and animals and loads of stuff. People were saying with global warming and global activists are saying it's actually like a really positive thing in that sense because the world's kind of stopped moving, stopped working, and then the environment's having a chance to re establish itself. And then, like you said, for people as well, they realize they don't have to, even like you said, people are working from home. They might realize now that they don't have to, because basically, if you're not working all the time, you're going to be more happy, right? And when you are happy, you're going to work better. If you're just a slave to the machine and you're working 9 to 5 this and you're like trapped, then you're going to generally have more of an unhappy quality of life. So it's like, you've got to have that balance of having time for yourself and also working. You know what I mean? Otherwise, you're just going to be unhappy.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. What about like for you guys? I mean, I know you've released like a little video of like you guys training and like stuff like that. Do you have like a backlog of stuff, or
Uh,
because you
not
can't
at the moment.
like if you're just putting out those videos of like you training like locally, like I think they're cool, but like are you worried that like there's kind of a limit on that?
Mm. So I guess the thing is, people seem to enjoy like us just going out and training quite a lot. They do enjoy the concepts and the other stuff, but they like the personality and us training. So I guess if there was like smart ways to kind of interweave our training a bit more and make it more interactive between the characters, I feel like maybe you could make that idea and that style last for quite a long time, especially because we're all separated as well. You're going to see different styles and different ways of editing and stuff come out, which is could be quite deemed quite interesting. But I don't know. I feel like yeah, maybe it could get boring, but I feel like if you're creative enough, you can keep it rolling.
No, I mean it's a constraint. Like we're saying, you got to be positive. You just got to look at constraint as like a new thing to try. And like you said, people into your personalities and stuff. And if you're like filming stuff more in isolation, I suppose each of you, your personalities will come out a bit more. And for all the people that follow you, they a lot of like younger people might look to you and be like, okay, what are they doing? Oh, I can have that same energy and I can do that thing. I mean, do you do little like do you find a lot of kids like try and copy some of the stuff you do? I mean, I don't really know what you do in terms of like releasing stuff where you show people how to do stuff
So
or
we have some online tutorials on our Patreon before, but I feel like we should definitely make some more at some point because that is actually quite a highly requested thing. I was like, do you have tutorials or would like to know how to do this or have more of an idea of how to do this? And I think we have plans to also open up an academy in the future. to train more people and that kind of that side of thing. But yeah, I guess there's like a wait. What was the other part of your question again? Sorry, I kind of got carried away. I'm sorry. If I go on
No,
any tangents, just stop me. Seriously.
no, man, I love tangents. Tangents are the best. Like, no, I was just saying, like, do you find a lot of young people like try and copy you already? That was basically it. And like,
Oh
do you
yeah, for
have,
sure. Yeah, definitely. The emulation is a thing. I feel like there's also like what's it called? A limit to that as well. So it's like it's good to be inspired by people and enjoy what they can bring to the table and what they can create. And there are definitely a lot of kids who are like that for us. But I also encourage people to, especially people who follow us, to have their own spark and their own like vibe as well, because that's what's going to make you truly individual and make people want to see who you are when you show who you authentically are. Because sometimes you can just see someone else and you can tell that they're a copy of someone or they're trying to be like someone else. And then when you see that's not authentic. So I always like to see people who are like actually them. And then it's like, then you're like, oh, cool, you're you. I like
yeah.
it.
No, you guys definitely get your personality into your work, which is something that like I'm trying to do a bit more. Like we do podcasts and stuff, and Tom, who I run this with, we have so much, like a catalog of funny clips, which we can't really release because they're not appropriate. Like the microphone's on, and we just chat shit for ages. We try and like spit bars and stuff, and it's so funny. Like when we look back at it, we're like crying, laughing, but like sometimes it's just utter bullshit and like just
Yeah, you
no.
gotta have that sometimes as well. Like when you just mess around and experiment, a lot of the magic or the good stuff will come out, or it will at least help you to let something out.
Did you ever find that when you were first filming like bits of parkour, like were you conscious of like, oh, this isn't perfect yet? Because like now you've got quite a polished like product. Like you guys, like you work as a team. There's like a system, and like your videos are really good now. But
Mm-hmm.
like, were you ever concerned about that? Like, oh, that's not really cool. Like,
I guess the weird thing is that almost is reflected in the current era, and it's like that's something that you need to not battle, but you need to work within yourself. Because I feel like when you said we're more established now, but I also feel like that play can also play to your not downfall, but your insecurities. Because a lot of people who are successful or they've done this thing or whatever, people look up to them for that. They are now going to have this image of themselves that they have to, maintain this level of success. You know what I mean? And I feel like can be quite unhealthy. Like, and also can take away from your true enjoyment of it. You know what I mean? And your true love for doing it when you're allowing your opinion of yourself to be constructed by someone else. Then you've kind of lost the thing, isn't it? Because you're now working for someone else instead of yourself. And if you work for yourself, that's when you can get the best outcome, I think.
Yeah, like so many people. It must be frustrating. Like I always think that with like bands and stuff. Like I heard a like interview from like someone that was in Arctic Monkeys, and they were like when they play their old stuff, they almost feel like a tribute band of themselves.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of musical artists in particular, like the fans, like hate new stuff, like keep doing the old stuff or like release the same like tracks and the same kind of albums again and again. And like then people get bored of you because they're like
Yeah.
haven't done anything new, but it's like, man, you literally criticized us for our new stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. So you can't you can never win because it's always going to be someone who's wants the old days or wants the nostalgia or this and that, and that's why you've got kind of obviously you're going to do stuff for the fans and the people who support you because that's good, but you've also got to do things for yourself, like for your own growth, and then when you develop a new style or a new thing, maybe people will like that, but if they don't, then fair enough. It's like I
Well,
feel
it's
like
like these people produce work, and like yourself, you produce work over 10 years. Are you going to be the same person? Like, is everyone like I think of myself 10 years ago? I'm nothing like I was then. Like, can you expect someone to be that same person?
exactly, yeah. And I guess it really depends on your mindset because obviously with neuroplasticity, like science now realize that you can change all these characteristics and things about yourself no matter how old you are. Really, if you put in enough work, you can change. Whereas before, people thought that once you had these characteristics, these capabilities, you're just set with them for life and you can't change them. But now that's completely false. So, like you
Yeah.
said, in 10, 15 years, 20 years from now, I'm going to be probably a completely different person. I would have shed my skin and then just changed pretty much.
Yeah.
So,
Wow,
yeah.
that's really positive. Like that's a positive outlook to have, especially with like how quick the world goes. Like with
Mhm.
technology, with everything. I'm not saying you have to be like up to date with everything, But like in our lifetimes, we're gonna have to adapt to so much, especially with like climate change and stuff coming in. Because what's happening right now will happen. Like similar things like this will happen because of climate change. Like in terms of this panic, like this lockdown. Like it's scary to say, but in our lifetimes, I'm fairly confident that there's going to be government issued restrictions on the way we live that will cause.
Yeah. But that's the weird thing. Is like I do feel like I don't know. I don't want to say any kind of controversial opinions, or I don't want to belittle anything that's been mentioned in this this whole thing. But like I do feel like the way in which people have been fed the information or told the information has scared them, and then obviously being in fear is going to make you sick anyway. So it raises cortisol, stress hormones, and then you're probably going to get really sick and ill anyway. Do you know what I mean? Like if you're scared and you're living in fear, it's nothing really good comes of that. You just obviously the fight or flight, and it's good to have that fear sometimes, or to know when something's not right. But you should also be able to think about it from a clear head or a clear perspective, and not let your fear delude you to the level of being maybe too scared. You know?
Yeah, we had a trainee psychologist for our second conversation on here, and she made a really nice point. She was like, keep up to date, look at the news or whatever, like once a day, just so you can be like, okay, they've lifted lockdown, or no, we're being on lockdown again. We should be concerned about this, and then put it off. I think too many people are literally sat glued to like news feeds and to like the news on TV, and
Yeah.
that will make you shit yourself because you hear about every single person that's died, even though people die every day because of like.
Of course, yeah. That is the thing. Like the whole thing about the statistics and the numbers is the whole comorbidity thing about how like obviously a lot of the people who have died from this virus are people who already had really bad underlying health conditions and they were on their last legs. Obviously, it's very bad that the virus has come along and it's killed people, but it's also like a common thing. You know what I mean?
Mate, I just saw like a little notification came off my laptop that Boris Johnson's been taken into like intensive care.
Oh Jesus, really?
Yeah, literally just as we were talking about 20 minutes ago,
Fair enough.
a little came up. Like that's gonna cause mad panic if that guy dies. Like people
That
are
would
gonna.
be weird as hell. Yeah, fair enough. Like if he goes from it, then I don't really know. Then my whole point I just mentioned then is completely void.
I get your point. Like
You know
I
what I
think
mean?
the same
For
thing.
sure, right? There's definitely something about that, and it's like I do think that it's definitely something you need to take seriously, and you need to look out for. But you shouldn't let yourself be thrown into fear by this panic. You know what I mean? Because a panic it's not going to help you.
No, I've been at home. Like, I've only left my house like twice. I went to the shop a couple of times with my family. But yeah, apart from that, I have been like chilling and focusing on what I can control.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
like another person we had on, a personal trainer, and she was like a big part of her job is like focusing on what people can control. Like you can control your mental health and your mindset through things like your nutrition, making sure you do certain things each day. Like that stuff that she works with all the time with her clients. But she was like, it's so applicable now because
Definitely. Yeah.
you shouldn't worry about all that stuff on the news all the time. Because if you stay home and you look after your family, there's like a whole range of things that you can control.
Exactly. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Definitely. Like that the personal trainer said. Movement is obviously going to be one of the most things that's going to give you the right chemicals and that feel good and lift anxiety, and any kind of flow or movement that you're doing is going to help you to feel better, especially in this situation. So exercise is probably one of the most crucial things that you can do, or walking or moving, even if it is in the house. Like motion is lotion, and that's what's going to give you that good feeling. It definitely has an impact on your psychology.
Massive stick in my garden, and it's like doing a bit of lifting. Feels good. Like you don't need
Yeah,
like the
exactly.
gym weights and stuff. Just find something heavy and like lift that up and down a few times, or like do some like star jumps or something.
Percent just got to do it, because I think as well, like I do feel like there's a real big not issue with Instagram. Well, there is an issue, let's be honest. It's like obviously how you use these tools and this social media is it can be such a good thing, especially if your feed is like filled with things that are going to give you inspiration, or you like, or you find funny, whatever. But if you're just kind of mindlessly scrolling and mindlessly consuming, then I feel like that can make you really kind of closed off and anxious. Like I remember actually seeing someone in the gym and having a conversation with him about like how when you're on your phone for a long period of time and you're immersed in this technology, you kind of like when you go out into the real world and you see people, you kind of feel a bit like tense sometimes, and you kind of that anxiety is kind of raised. And obviously, mental health and anxiety is something that's been spoken about and mentioned so much recently. And if you are indoors and you're not exercising, you're not eating that well, you're not getting that much sunlight, and you're just looking at other people's lives who are like showing you their highlight reel of their lives, then that's going to have a huge effect on your health and your mind.
Yeah, 100%. Like when I was asking Josh, not Josh, sorry, Chris, like about your Instagram and stuff, and be like, oh, can Josh share stuff and stuff like that? And he was like, no, Josh isn't on Instagram at the minute. And I was like, 100% get that, because I agree with you. There's the core like principle of what it is genius, like of
Yeah,
what's given us, but like the use is like so wrong, and
yeah,
like
it's
I've had
crazy.
so much. Like I'll be honest, like through this project Connect that I'm doing, I haven't got loads of likes, I haven't got tons of views, but I've had some of the most interesting conversations with people from like I said, the objective of it to talk to people from different backgrounds and perspectives, and it's been awesome. And then I get myself down because I'm like, I haven't got enough likes or views on that. When it takes away from the very fact of like
Definitely,
what I achieved
exactly.
and the feeling, like when I leave this now with you, I feel really good. I'm like, I talked to someone new about something, and like I learned a bit more about Storror, all that shit. But then if it doesn't get enough likes or views, I'll be like, ah,
Yeah, it's
oh,
interesting how that controls your sense of self-worth, and it's that negative feedback loop that you kind of have to break, because it's interesting you saying not enough likes. It's like I feel like there's two different realms of this online like social game or whatever. You got people who are consumers mainly, right? So they're not putting out that many pictures themselves, anything like that. They're just watching, they're just scrolling, right? And that can give you a negative image of yourself, because you feel like, oh, how come this guy is like getting all these likes and his life looks so much better than mine, blah, blah, blah. But then on the flip side, the mirror is that the guy who's posting all those pictures and stuff, he's now got this inflated self-image. But then when the likes don't come or someone criticizes him, he's overly sensitive, and he's now trying to, maintain this facade to the world. And that is also equally as damaging. So I feel like it's almost a paradox that you get yourself trapped into, unless you can go on social media and have a detachment. So when you're on it, you're not like, oh, like I have to be this person and I have to show myself. And if I don't get the validation, then I'm not a real person, or I'm not a good person. But the moment you can shed that and be authentically you, I think you're fine. You're sorted. Nothing.
I think it goes back to what we were saying of like, what version of yourself are you going to be? Because, for example, if you say you're making this stuff, you're doing stuff with Storror and related to that, but like
Yeah.
one day you decide, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, you know in your heart that you want to like become a dancer or like something like that. You just want to like switch it up, and then the likes don't translate. You know what I mean? Everyone's like, no, we want Parkour Josh back, and
Yep.
then like that big passion and like move and that heart, like change of heart is like, oh shit, I shouldn't have done that.
Mm-hmm. So
Like,
what would I do? Wait, what do you mean?
no,
What's it?
that's what I'm saying. Like that, like say you had a big change of heart for what you wanted to do, that
Yep.
could negatively impact you because the online community will be like, now we're gonna not like Josh's new life of being a dancer or a painter or whatever,
Sure. Yeah. 100%.
and that
Yeah.
makes you second
Exactly.
guess
Yeah. Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah. Exactly. But it's so up to you. I feel like as an individual to take that how you will. Is obviously if you decide to do something different and you want to roll with that, then I think that if you're authentic and you're honest to the fans and the people who like you, then and they don't respect that, then that's up to them to feel that way, I guess. And I don't think you're necessarily letting someone down. You're being real with them and true with them. And if you're not real and true, then you're just not going to feel good. I feel like the work that you then put out. Say if I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to go back to doing. Obviously, I'm not going to give up parkour, but this is all theoretical. If I was like, oh, I'm going to give up parkour now and do this other thing, and then I was like, oh no, the fans are kind of frustrated. I'm not performing, so I'm going to go back. Then the quality of work I put out is probably going to be crap anyway. So, it's just like a lose-lose.
Is that something you felt when you were younger, like in terms of, because I think when you're in school, what's
Mm-hmm.
popular? Football, like that sort of thing,
Yeah.
and you obviously from a young age were doing an alternative thing. Because we talk about
Mm-hmm.
parkour now, but like way back, we're talking like over 10 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
like 11, 12 years ago, parkour was like obviously way less of a thing. Like, was that
Yeah.
something you felt back then? Like,
Yeah. So I guess I've always been that person though, or always been a person, sorry, who just did my own thing anyway. Really, like obviously, I did enjoy doing certain sports, and when I felt the passion for it, I felt the want to do it, I could perform well. But when I didn't feel like it, I just did my own thing. And then I guess when parkour came along and I was one of the only kids doing it, it just felt like, oh, whatever. I'm just going to go. I just used to go at break time sometimes and just do precisions on the step and just try and get good foot placement. I just thought it felt natural. I was happy to do it. And obviously I had friends and people who came and went and, you know, who wanted to give it a go or would try. Or some people would look and be like, oh, he's weird. Why is he doing that? But it's like, who cares? It made me happy and I enjoyed it. So I didn't really mind that much. I didn't really feel ostracized or terribly separated. If I wanted to feel separated, I'll just go and play football one break time. And then that was it. So being flexible.
I have an image of my head of like at St. Bede's, there's like the big AstroTurf.
Mm-hmm.
And like obviously people always playing football and stuff on there. And then there's like steps down to it with some rails. And I have like a distinct memory of like people like Chris and stuff or whoever were interested in that thing, like trying some shit yet like over there. And like I just had that in my mind. And they would to many people would have been like, what the fuck are those guys doing there?
Yeah, it's like fair enough, but it's like it's always like that, isn't it? It's like when someone sees something, well, it's not when certain people see something that's different or new or outside of their understanding, then they just deem it as like, what's he up to? Been susceptible of it loads of times where I see someone doing something and I don't understand it, so I'm like, oh, what? That's kind of weird. Like he's different. But then sometimes you go over and speak to that person, or you'll see it and then they explain it to you, and then you're like, oh wow, like that's cool. Or I get it now.
People, aren't you? Because they're obviously like 90% of the time just normal people. It would just be a normal lad that has a different interest.
Exactly.
And I feel like people often are like, oh, you know, like Josh is actually all right. It's like, of course he's all right. He's just like a guy that likes doing parkour. Like that's
exactly, yeah, exactly.
Like, did you as well? Like back then, I'm just curious. Like, was it quite detached then? You were saying like you met these people through like different spots and stuff. Was like the scene quite detached? Like,
Oh no, okay. So actually, no, that's really weird. I feel like it's actually funny you mentioned this because this is actually quite a big topic in the parkour realm because there's actually a guy called Jimmy the Giant who makes these now parkour kind of documentaries and some of them done really quite well on YouTube. One's got like 500K and like it's talking about like the different scenarios that have affected parkour. And one of the most recent ones is Instagram. But then to go back to when I met people and actually started to hang out in the community, even though I didn't have a phone, the community was so tight knit. You know what I mean? You go online, the forums, people were talking, connecting. You know, like a lot of the main people's Facebook would talk, will be on Facebook groups, this kind of stuff. YouTube was in its infancy and people were uploading videos, and that was the way you'd save all your clips and your content, and then you'd put like a compilation video up of the things that you've been doing in the month, whatever. Funny enough, when I was younger, I didn't really care about filming anything. It was more just training, and that was it. But yeah, the community was really close. But then when Instagram came along, and this documentary about Instagram, even though Instagram and the internet kind of creates this connection with the people, right? People are especially more connected than ever. There is this kind of innate separation that's then become an isolation of people in general. And people kind of, even though a lot of good things are happening with connection and people, talking this kind of stuff, there's still that distance and that disconnection of people. And I feel like Instagram has kind of almost created that for parkour, where like, obviously a lot of people are training, they're filming this kind of stuff and they're putting stuff up. But I feel like Instagram has kind of created a certain content that people digest commonly. Do you know what I mean? So people who are parkour athletes have kind of catered that content towards the people who are watching Instagram, and like it's kind of like warped the sense of community in parkour. So yeah, if you watch the video as well, it's a really cool guy, Kieran Owen, talking about it. Yeah, I find it really interesting. But yeah, people are actually more disconnected than they ever have been in parkour, I'd say. Weird.
Yeah, we'll wrap it up now. Is there anything like you want to say in terms of like, oh, Storror or yourself have got stuff coming up, or like?
So yeah, just we're still trying to release videos, still trying to stay within the guidelines, but then go outside for like an hour and a bit a day. So you'll still be seeing content on the main channel. And yeah, to all the people at home or anyone who's watching this or whatever, just try and stay positive and connect with your family and people around you, and yeah, just stay safe.
Yeah, I'm really keen as well. I'll do this after actually. I'll message you or Chris, just to see like who, because I kind of want like a family tree of like person to person, and like if there's anyone you think is particularly interesting, or like, I mean, like I'm not gonna lie, the odd like I have been fishing with certain people for like more famous people. Like if someone's like, oh, my dad or my cousin is this, I'm like, I need that person just because like you got to play the game sometimes. That will help for like
sure.
if you use someone really cool. But like they're my two. Like I have different levels of like I want people that are like super famous just because it'll be a trip to like talk to someone. Like whoa. I want like really interesting people. Like that's why I wanted to get people like you that like do something that's really different. And I feel like all those people that do different things have like quite big communities behind them.
Yeah.
So this was for me, but I think a lot of people like that follow you will be quite interested as well.
Yeah, nice.
And then, I mean, like I saw someone that followed you that I was like, hey, would be so sick. Israel Adesanya.
Yeah, so random. He followed me. Yeah, exactly.
I
UFC
thought that was so
really,
sick.
definitely cool character. I
Yeah,
don't know him personally very well, obviously. Like I've had like message on one of his photos, and then he commented something back. But apart from that, nothing. No.
like weird like that. Like aside from me, like
Yeah, most random person that ever followed me for like quite a while is what's that guy Thor from Marvel from what's his name, Chris Hemsworth.
oh yeah.
Yeah, he's quite a random follow. Who else? Just loads of random. Just to be fair, just random famous people. To be honest, they've just randomly followed me. I've just had like a weird affinity with weird famous people. I don't know.
Hey, that's cool. That's cool. All right, thank you, Josh. I really appreciate this. I'll post this online tomorrow. Like if you or anyone else wants to see it.
Brilliant, Ollie.
All right, thank you very much for speaking to me, and hopefully we'll speak soon or something like that.
Yeah, awesome. Stay
all
safe.
Right. Hey, yeah, you too.
Thank you.